Hello, my name is Emily Anderson, and welcome to my podcast about the course Special Education 330, which is all about specific learning disabilities. As a future educator, I need all the knowledge about students with specific learning disabilities as I possibly could have. This course provided me with a ton of useful information that I will be able to use in my future profession. On page 116 of the textbook, Learners with Mild Disabilities, written by Aline Raymond, specific learning disability is a disability affecting specific areas of learning, resulting in unexpected underachievement, related to the understanding and use of language, and not better explained by another condition or lack of opportunity to learn. My dream job would be in a cross-categorical classroom, where all students would come to see me no matter the disability they have. If I was a future general education teacher, then my content that I am teaching would be very different compared to what I wish to teach in my classroom. Let's say that there's a third grade teacher who teaches all subjects to one class during the day. This teacher will hopefully see students of all abilities throughout the day. There will most likely be one, if not more, students with an SLD in their classroom. That means that the teacher is going to have to be more aware of the way they teach their content to her students. Whereas me, as the future special educator, I will hopefully be able to see students who need help in all subjects. I will be the extra support that they get for the general education teacher. I will have to alter the way I teach to each student due to their disability being different and the uniqueness of each student's learning. This class has helped me find different strategies and supports I can use in my classroom to adhere to all of my students' needs. With the knowledge and information that I learned in this class, I will be talking about misperceptions in different areas of SLD, like cognitive, academic, and social-emotional concerns. After explaining the misperceptions, I will correct them and provide tools or strategies to address them. Let's start with the cognitive concerns. According to Professor Holt, in her Chapter 9 lecture, she stated that some of the things that are assumed about learning for all learners. To be effective as learners, individuals must be active participants in and responsible for their own learning. The way individuals organize and integrate information is critical to their success in learning, and learning results when a student effectively relates new learning to previous learnings. From previous classes and information learned from Professor Holt, I know that students with SLD may be at a disadvantage when us educators break down our lessons regarding new skills into smaller parts. Students with SLD struggle to relate the previous information to new information to connect it and make it one big skill. So if a teacher teaches part of the skill into little lessons compared to teaching the whole skill in one big lesson, the student will have a hard time grasping the concept because of the lack of connection between information. The students will be able to add the new information to their knowledge base, but it won't mean anything to them because they do not have the ability to connect it to the previous information. There are a lot of strategies and different accommodations that can be used or made in order to meet the needs of the students with cognitive concerns in the classroom. An accommodation that I believe would be very effective for students with SLD would be giving students a window frame. This tool allows the students to focus on one area of a text at a time that blocks out any unnecessary information that could pose as a distraction to them. Using UDL is another way that an educator can support their students in a classroom. Some tools that UDL can provide is teaching the use of graphic organizers to provide scaffolds for learning content. Having graphic organizers can help the students keep track of what information is new and what information is old, and it will also help making the connections between the two types of information. A tool that I believe students would enjoy is actively encouraging them to explain different ways to learn content or to solve the problems. So like a presentation, finding things online, finding things in the textbook, anything that they can think of that will help them find the new information. If students are aware of the different ways to learn and to explain the content that they learn, I believe that they will enjoy more of what they are learning. I have found the UDL examples in Chapter 9 of the textbook, Learners with Mild Disabilities. Let's move on to the academic concerns. When it comes to the academic aspect of students with SLD, people tend to have a lot of misperceptions about these students. For starters, many of these misperceptions include the students being lazy and having no motivation to learn, whereas that is quite the opposite. Students with SLD appear to have no motivation because they generally don't have a teacher that motivates them in any way to learn. Any student in general needs motivation to learn, whereas students with SLD sometimes need a little more of a push or even different motivation than the rest of the students to want to learn. Teachers need to provide a different way to motivate the students with SLD to make sure they want to learn. Another misperception people have is that since they cannot learn at the same pace as their other students, that they should be in a separate classroom, whereas they shouldn't. In her Chapter 11 lecture, Professor Holt states that students with mild disabilities progress more slowly than the stages of learning than their peers. Therefore, they need more time, experiences, and materials to allow for accurate learning. This means that sometimes the students just need a little bit more time, a little bit more information from the teacher, just a little bit more so they don't have to be in a separate classroom away from their peers. She also states that they require more explicit teaching and accurate learning, and I believe that all the students could benefit from explicit teaching. The clearer and more direct the teaching, then the easier it is for students with disabilities to learn. If a teacher teaches with UDL in their classroom, there will be multiple ways to support students with SLD that have academic concerns. One of the most effective ways to support students is allowing them multiple options to get information on a unit topic and help them learn to use critical thinking skills to evaluate and triangulate the information they acquire. Again, with the cognitive concerns, you just really need to provide them with different ways they can find this information so they really know that it's really real and it's really out there. The students can get that information anywhere. Well, mostly anywhere. Students will enjoy being able to decide which way they can learn. It will also make them feel like they are an important part of their learning, which they really are. Another way is offering options for assessments. Assessing students one way and one way only is a very ineffective way of telling if the students have learned or not. Most students are not good at test takers, including me, and have very bad test anxiety. So a test won't show how much they've learned and how they've acquired the knowledge or comprehended the knowledge. A teacher should provide multiple ways for students to show that they have learned and comprehended the information. I believe that students can make this fun and engaging. Let's move on to social emotional concerns, which is our last section. Students that have social emotional needs often get very negative thoughts from others. These students are thought to be the troublemakers of the classroom. They struggle to perform socially acceptable behaviors in and out of the classroom due to many factors in their life. Professor Holt talks about some of the characteristics in her Chapter 12 lecture. Some of these characteristics include students will exhibit behaviors as a response to their environment, whether that is good or bad. Typically, developing children are able to perform age-appropriate behaviors, whereas children with SLD show behaviors that indicate a social cognitive delay. Students will exhibit substitute behaviors that are maladaptive responses to environmental events and personal issues, and which take the place of more useful behaviors. That tends to compromise the learner's functioning in critical ways. One way to get rid of misperceptions is to consider social competence. Students with SLD often lack the social skills that allow them to interact with their peers. That means that they may be unable to understand social expectations and to interpret the behavior of others around them. The lack of social competence can lead to feeling isolated and depressed, which as a teacher is something we never want our students to feel. Supporting students with these concerns may be slightly difficult, although, thankfully for UDL, there are some ways we are able to support them. By delivering behavioral directives clearly, directly, and consistently to help students develop social awareness. This could help prevent any judgment from peers or other adults. We as future educators need to recognize that students have different levels of comfort in social situations. Recognizing that will allow us to prepare the students to voice their discomfort in some situations. We shouldn't tell the students that they need to avoid certain situations, yet we should help them prepare for the situations that they might come across. Along with that, we need to teach our students that not everybody has to enjoy the same things or feel the same way when something happens. Encouraging growth in social perspective, taking in students is key. The tools and strategies that a teacher can be used to support all their students is endless. I believe as educators, our focus should be making sure all students understand the content. I am able to use all of the knowledge I learned in this course to become a better educator. Thank you for listening.